Warning: some contents may be disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hi, I'm from California. I'm 32 and female. Being single on Valentine's Day wasn't something I usually fretted over. I've always been comfortable on my own, focusing on my career and my friendship. Relationships had come and gone, but nothing ever made me want to settle down. Maybe I was just picky, or maybe I just enjoyed my independence too much. But either way, life on my terms suited me just fine. But so much for that, and now for the story. This happened 2 years ago, 2 weeks before Valentine's Day. I started noticing small gifts appearing at my apartment door. At first, it was just a few chocolates wrapped in red foil. No card, no note, and just left there like a little mystery. It was charming in a way, like something straight out of a movie. I wondered if it was a neighbor being friendly or someone trying to brighten my day, but I didn't give it too much thought. But the gifts continued. A bouquet of roses one day, a scented candle the next, and every other day I would find something new waiting for me. It was delightful, I have to admit. The surprises filled my days with a bit of excitement and curiosity. I couldn't help but feel flattered at the attention, even if I had no idea who was behind it. It was a pleasant distraction from my usual routine. I didn't feel threatened or creeped out at first, because all the gifts were fairly normal. But then, things took a turn when I saw the next gift left for me. A journal appeared, exactly like the one that I had been using. Same brand, same color. It was too specific to be a coincidence, and something about it made me feel uneasy. Well, yes, it could be a coincidence. That could be an option. But really? That specific? The next gift I got after the journal was a picture frame holding a photograph of my favorite spot in the park. It was a quiet corner by the lake, a place that I went to clear my head. Well, that's when I started to feel the chill of being watched. And that gift was different too, because this time it came with a note. A simple, unsettling message that said, "See you soon." It was short, but the implications were enough to keep me awake at night. I tried to shake it off, to convince myself that it was just some harmless prank that a friend was doing. Yet deep down, I couldn't deny the growing anxiety. I became hyper-aware of my surroundings, constantly checking if someone was following me or lingering too long. Every creak in my apartment seemed amplified, every shadow suspicious. It took a toll on me. It was affecting my sleep and my peace of mind. I wondered if I was just being paranoid, but the feeling persisted. I was not at peace at all. I started doubting people around me. Was it a friend? A coworker? I mean, who? Who could this person be? Every time that I left the house, whether it was for work or groceries, I felt a pair of eyes on me. I couldn't tell if it was real or just my imagination running wild. My friends noticed my distraction, but I brushed off their concerns, not wanting to draw more attention to the situation. I just wanted to figure it out, to uncover the mystery and put it to rest. Valentine's Day arrived, a day that I'd usually spend treating myself to a nice dinner and a good movie. I try to keep it normal, to stick to my tradition despite the gifts and the note and everything happening around me. I settled in for the evening, sinking into the couch with a bowl of chocolates. And it felt good to relax, if only for a moment, and I let myself enjoy the film, trying to forget the unease of the past days. When I was on my second movie, The doorbell rang, pulling me from my thoughts. My heart skipped, a mix of curiosity and fear. I was not expecting someone to drop by this day. Most of my friends had partners, so of course, they were doing their own thing. And those that didn't, I was aware that they had other plans. So I stood up, peered through the peephole, and my pulse quickened at the sight of a man in a hoodie standing outside. He didn't look familiar. My instinct screamed at me to stay quiet and not to make a sound. Mind you, this was around 9:30 p.m. The man then tried the doorknob and a surge of panic hit me. I went and I grabbed my phone, dialing for help while backing away from the door. He started knocking, louder and more insistent, as if he knew that I was inside. My mind raced thinking of what to do. I moved to the kitchen, grabbing a frying pan. Well, it may not be the best weapon, but it was something. I stayed on the line with emergency services, whispering my situation, when the man on my porch started banging on the door. It felt like forever, each second stretched thin with anxiety, but the operator assured me that help was on the way, so I just focused on my breathing, on trying to stay calm so that I don't hyperventilate. Eventually, the banging stopped, leaving a tense silence. I waited for a bit, but there was really nothing. I dared to peek through the peephole again, and the man was gone. The police arrived shortly after checking the premises, but they found no trace of him. The ordeal ended without confrontation, but the impact was lasting on me. I did tell the police everything that had happened so far, and that night, they really couldn't do anything more for me other than telling me that they will patrol the area. I filed a report too, just in case something happens again, so at least this is already documented. The next day, I decided to increase the security in my home. I got a Ring doorbell camera and some other stuff, and I made sure to inform my landlord about the incident. It was a wake-up call, a harsh reminder of personal safety and the boundaries that I'd let slip. I was so flattered with the attention that I was getting that I didn't even think about the very fact that this person knew where I lived and how dangerous that is. Well, sometimes we are really not the sharpest tool in the shed. In the end, I never figured out who did it. The gifts also ceased, and life returned to normal. But the experience really stayed with me, because every time Valentine's Day is approaching, I can't help but feel a little nervous. So stay safe, everyone, and I hope that you get to spend it well with your loved ones. Valentine's Day had always seemed like a day full of expectations, but this year, I found myself excited for a different reason. I had a blind date set up, something that I hadn't done in a while. The idea came from a friend who thought that I should meet this girl he knew. I didn't have any plans, so I figured, why not, right? She sounded interesting enough over the phone, and meeting new people can be fun. The plan was straightforward. I would pick her up, and we'd go to a nice restaurant downtown. She gave me her address, and I didn't think much of it until I punched it into my GPS. The neighborhood was known for being a bit rough and around the edges, if you get what I mean. But I didn't want to judge too quickly. I thought maybe she just happened to live in a less than ideal area. So there I was, suited up and ready, driving my car through the streets that grew more unfamiliar and a little sketchy as I went. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the blocks as I navigated through the maze of narrow streets. I pulled up to the address she gave me, parking under a flickering streetlight. The house matched the neighborhood, a bit run down but not abandoned. I took a deep breath, trying to shake the unease creeping inside of me. I then got out of the car, glancing around before walking up to the door. There were no lights inside that were on, but I just knocked anyway. I waited, but there was no answer. I knocked again, a bit louder this time, hoping that she was just running late. But that's when I heard footsteps behind me, the kind that make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. I turned around to see 3 guys approaching, their demeanor anything but friendly. They were casually dressed, but there was an edge to them that set off alarm bells in my head. One of them asked how I was doing, his tone smooth yet unsettling, as if he'd rehearsed the scene before. Then came the question about money, whether I had any on me. My mind raced, trying to process the situation, and it didn't take long to realize that I had been set up. This was no blind date, it was a trap. I tried to play it cool, telling them that my wallet was in the car, hoping to buy myself some time. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat a countdown to what I needed to do next. As they exchanged glances, I saw my chance. Instead of going back to my car where they could corner me, I bolted in the opposite direction, running as fast as I could down the street. My breath came in sharp bursts, fueled by adrenaline and fear. I didn't look back, and I just kept running, hoping to put enough distance between us. I wasn't worried about the car, since I had locked it. I then found refuge in the shadows of an alley, hidden behind a dumpster. I crouched there, trying to steady my breathing, listening for any sign of someone following me. Time seemed to stretch out, each minute dragging by as I waited, every sound amplified in the quiet night. Eventually, I dared to peek out, scanning the street. I haven't seen them or heard them in a while, so I assumed that the guys had given up the search, but I stayed hidden a bit longer just to be sure. When I was confident that the coast was clear, I crept back towards my car, sticking to the shadows. I didn't reveal myself because in my mind I was thinking that they were expecting to see me again and they might jump back out and then catch me. When I was near my car, my heart was racing with the fear that I would be caught again. But they were nowhere in sight, so I sprinted as fast as I could, opened the car and then slid into the driver's seat, starting the engine with trembling hands. The street was empty now, the flickering streetlight casting an eerie glow as I drove away, and relief washed over me as the neighborhood disappeared in the rearview mirror. That night taught me a valuable lesson about trust and caution. It was a really close call, a reminder that not everything is as it seems, and that sometimes intuition is your best guide. And if you're curious about my friend who set the date up, well, I was never able to contact him again. He was a friend I knew from university, and after that I tried calling him and texting him, but I was blocked, so I just assumed that he was in on it. Anyway, I'm just grateful to be safe and sound. So my advice to everyone is that stay safe and make sure your dates do exist and not just some kind of setup. Hi everyone, I'm a 27-year-old female and I wanted to share an unsettling experience that I have had while having a date with my boyfriend. For this year's Valentines, my partner and I booked a cozy table at a restaurant known for its intimate ambience and great cuisine. It was one of our favorite places to go to. The dim lighting, soft music, and aroma of delicious food made it the perfect setting for a special evening. Also, they had the best steaks in town. As we settled in, I noticed the man at the table beside ours. He was alone, sitting stiffly with a bouquet of flowers on the table. His eyes darted to the entryway every few minutes, scanning the room with a tense expression. His clothes were neat but seemed slightly rumpled, like he'd been sitting there for a while. It didn't take too much to guess that he was waiting for a date who hadn't shown up yet. Throughout our meal, I couldn't help but glance over occasionally. The man didn't order food, just a drink, which he sipped slowly with his eyes fixed on the door. And as the time passed, his demeanor shifted from hopeful to visibly frustrated. He checked his watch repeatedly, drumming his fingers on the table with increasing agitation, and he checked on his phone a lot. And near the end of our meal, a waiter approached his table, politely asking if he wanted to order anything else. Well, that's when everything changed. That must have triggered something in him, because the man's face turned a shade of red and then he stood up abruptly. His chair was scraping on the floor loudly. His voice, previously subdued, erupted in anger and it was echoing through the restaurant. He started shouting about how he had been stood up, his voice filled with a mix of rage and hurt. It was unsettling to witness. His emotions raw and very unchecked. People turned in their seats, attention drawn to the unfolding scene. The man then went on a rant. His words were very bitter, expressing his disdain for women. He accused them of only caring about money, ignoring the fact that he was, in his words, a nice guy who will treat her right. How he felt betrayed and hurt, and that someone needs to punish her for this. The staff was trying to de-escalate the situation. They approached cautiously, asking him to calm down. But he was beyond reasoning. His movements erratic, he began pushing the staff away, his frustration boiling over into aggression. The atmosphere shifted from romantic and serene to tense and uneasy. It was one of those moments where you feel a mix of sympathy and fear. Sympathy for his situation being let down in such a public way, and fear from the unpredictability of his actions. The restaurant, which was once filled with soft laughter and clinking of glasses, was now heavy with silence and the sound of his anger. Eventually, the situation became serious enough that the police were called. They arrived promptly, entering the restaurant with a calm authority. The man, still fuming, was escorted out, and his protest growing fainter as they led him away. The restaurant gradually returned to normal, though a lingering unease remained. As we finished our dessert, I couldn't shake the event from my mind. I had mixed emotions about the whole thing. We then left the restaurant hand in hand, and then we drove home. The night ended peacefully for us, but the experience stayed with me. It's a reminder that everyone carries their struggles, and sometimes they spill over in unexpected ways. Valentine's Day has always been a special occasion for my wife and me. We've never let it pass by uncelebrated, no matter how busy life gets. It's a day to acknowledge all the small things that makes our relationship what it is. I remember the first time I met her at a mutual friend's get-together. She had this warmth about her that was really hard to miss. Her laughter drew me in, and it felt like we clicked instantly. So from then on, we were inseparable, always finding joy in the little adventures of life. And now years later, I still want to make her feel special. And that's why on Valentine's Day, I made plans to surprise her with all of her favorite things. I set out early in the morning, hoping to beat the usual Valentine's rush. My mission was simple: cupcakes from her favorite bakery, some bright balloons, a bouquet of her favorite flowers too. I also picked up a card, one with a simple but heartfelt message. Words never quite capture how much she means to me, but I try my best. After picking up the flowers and balloons, my final stop was the cupcake shop. As I drove through the town, the sky was a bright blue, the perfect backdrop for a day like this. The bakery was bustling, as expected. I parked and I joined the line, which snaked out of the door at first. The place smelled heavenly though, a mix of sugar and freshly baked goodness. I didn't mind the wait. It was all part of the day's excitement. While I was in line, I noticed a man standing by himself. He was separate from the crowd but conspicuous enough to catch my eye. He wasn't too shabby, but there was something about him that seemed off. His clothes looked a little rumpled, hair a bit unkempt. He seemed jittery, pacing back and forth, glancing around with quick, restless eyes. Most people seem to ignore him. I guess they're just focused on their own task and getting things done. I also tried not to stare, assuming that he was just anxious or in a hurry. But there was this kind of tension about him, like a tight coil ready to spring. I kept an eye on him, feeling a slight unease as I inched forward in the line. But the chatter and warmth of the bakery actually made me forget about the man. Then, just as I was nearing the counter, everything shifted. The man suddenly moved forward, not in line. He went to the front, pulling out something from his jacket. And then I see it. A gun. My heart lurched as he shouted for everyone to stay calm and hand over their valuables. Fear rippled through the room, turning the atmosphere thick with panic. My mind raced, trying to process the situation. In those tense moments, I remembered the self-defense class that I had taken ages ago. They taught us to stay calm, to assess the situation, and if possible, to act. No. If you are guessing that I tried to stop the guy and grab the gun, absolutely not. I am not equipped for that. I would have probably been shot if I did. But instead, I watched him carefully, noticing how his hand shook and his eyes darted wildly. He was nervous, perhaps as scared as we were. I'm assuming that this was his first time doing this. But I needed to do something without escalating the situation. I slowly moved, inching towards a side door near the counter. The door was already open from the long line earlier, but nobody dared to go out or run. I tried my best to keep my movements subtle, trying not to draw his attention. I felt the eyes of the others on me, with a shared understanding that we needed to stay safe. And once near the door, I looked at the man and I waited for the right moment. Luckily, the man was distracted by something that was going on behind the counter. I couldn't see what it was. I took a deep breath, and then I slipped out, barely making a noise. Outside, I rushed towards the street, with my heart pounding. I pulled out my phone to try and call the police, but by the stroke of luck, I found a police officer patrolling nearby. I flagged him down, and breathlessly I explained the situation. He then called for backup, and within minutes, more officers arrived, moving quickly and efficiently. To make the long story short, the situation inside the bakery was resolved without any harm, and the man was taken into custody without hurting anybody. Relief washed over me, though my hands and my body trembled as I finally purchased the cupcakes. I returned home, gifts in hand, grateful that I was able to live another day unharmed. As I handed my wife the surprises, I felt a deeper appreciation for the ordinary, for the safety, and for the comfort of our routine. The day really didn't go as planned, but it reminded me of what truly matters: being together with people I love, safe and sound, no matter what. So, happy Valentine's Day to everyone, and please, stay safe.
And here's the riddle for this video. Hello everyone, it's your creepy sister here. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate it. I would also like to give some extra love to my Patreon members, my channel members, and also my tippers. Thank you so much. If you would like to extend a little bit more support for the channel, don't forget to leave a like and a comment down below. If you would like to become a Patreon member, a channel member, a tipper, or even to buy merch, check out the links in the description below. Again, thank you. And I hope you stay scared, because your fear feeds me.